Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing today? Today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to stay on the Deen, especially in the West. And yeah.
This dude didn't let me say assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, walaikum
Assalamu
assalam.
alaikum, guys. How you? I'm here too. You know, I'm good. I'm good too, man. Thanks for asking.
Who?
What?
Asked. Anyways, all right. I'm just playing. Okay. Anyways.
But yeah,
Go ahead.
so I had a couple we had a couple questions come at us asking us like, oh, how do we stay on Deen if we're living in a place like the West, or how do we get closer to Allah living in that type of place? Because there's a lot of fitna around. There's so many trials and tribulations around the West, and we live in the West. We know what it's like. We've seen the type of fitness people are talking about. There's violence. Gun violence.
Mm-hmm.
There's people chasing wealth.
Woman.
Yeah, there's women.
For the man.
Yeah.
Man, I never liked that question. Like, oh, how can I stay on Deen? Well,
I mean, you don't like that question.
It's a good question, but like, bro, it's like saying, there's two types of people in this world. Say we're going through a forest. There's a person who only sees the trees, and there's a person who sees the end goal, the path, who sees the way through the trees. Mm-hmm. Who do you think is gonna make it to the end of the forest first? The person who sees the path. The one who's focused on the goal. The one who's focused, lasered.
Well, I think the first question you need to ask yourself is, how do you get on Deen, right? Because once you get there, yeah, you could fall off, but there has to be a lot that has to be done for you to fall off if you're already, practicing as a Muslim. Especially if you're practicing in a way that you're steadfast, you're trying to be steadfast, and you're trying to follow the truth. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us He doesn't aim to make it hard for us. But if you look at history, the place that you're in doesn't matter for the way you practice Islam. Look at the Muslims who like the first Muslims in our ummah, right? In the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba. Look at where they lived. They lived in Mecca, where the Quraysh, they had that territory. Like they operated in that territory. And they were the worst of people. They were alcoholics. They were non-believers. A lot of them, they took other gods as well as Allah. Because
they knew Allah existed, but they worship other gods, like let's say through him or besides him.
Exactly.
Just being mushriks,
Exactly.
The worst sin in Islam.
And the Muslims there who follow the Prophet ﷺ, yeah, he's the best of creation, but they followed him and they didn't turn away. They were able to stay steadfast even in the times where they were ridiculed, they were abused, they went through a time of famine and they were poor and poverty.
They had to fight just because of their religion.
Exactly. They had to fight just because of who they were and what they believed in, because they chose to believe in one true God. That was it. Mm-hmm. But see, and then nowadays, you see some things that weren't seen back then. Like you see people half naked on the internet. People are selling their souls to, acquire money, acquire wealth.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more things that people care about. People care about their reputation a lot more, especially online, because you have a digital footprint. If you put something online, it's going to be there forever. Mm-hmm. So people are caring about that a lot more. So they're trying to find a way to how can I combat this, with my Deen? And the first thing you got to ask yourself is, do you truly believe in the first pillar of Islam? The first pillar of Islam is the Shahada. But what is the first word in the Shahada? First word is ashhadu, right? Mm-hmm. I bear witness. You're not looking at anything, but you're bearing witness in your heart that there's no God worthy of worship but Allah. There's none worthy of worship but Allah. And then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger and his slave and his messenger. You don't worship the Prophet. You only worship Allah, but you follow the example of the Prophet, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to look at yourself. You have to say, do I truly believe this? Because if you truly believe that, then that's where you can start looking at, your prayer, your zakah, your psalm, and your hajj. You can start looking at those things. But if you have to truly find belief first, that's what makes you a Muslim first, is your belief. Because once you have the belief, you're a Muslim.
Mm-hmm. And wallahi, you just mentioned the 5 pillars of Islam. For someone who wants to stay on their religion and on their way of life, you want to have a good base structure. Because if your structure can fall easily, then it's not really your way of life, is it?
Yeah. Exactly.
So we have 5 pillars in Islam, and if you want to stay on your Deen, you want to look at those 5 pillars, and you want to master those 5 pillars, so that you have a base, strong structure of Islam. With that strong base, you'll never fall. I promise you.
And also, one thing I was definitely going to bring up like as a Muslim, as someone who grew up in the West, as someone who had to, combat like these opposing views like atheism being like growing so rapidly today, and also Christianity and Judaism and all these other faiths that were coming in my face, especially in school, because schools and the government, they're taught to be secular. They're taught to like not truly preach religion,
Yeah,
but
take God out of the picture.
if I look back at me in school and living in America, how many Muslim teachers I had? Zero, except for the ones that were at the mosque. How many were Christian? Probably all of them. How many were atheists? Probably a few of them. That type of stuff. They weren't taught to, they were either taught to not speak on religion, or if they did, then they'd speak on their own. They'd say like, Jesus loves her or something like that. They'd speak in a way like that. And I'd be like, bro, that's not what I believe in. And then they try to ask me questions about my faith, or ask me like why I believe that and why I don't believe in this and that. And really coming up with Islam, it was like when I found Islam and I was getting closer to Allah, I got to a spot where I was like, bro, I know more than you about your faith than you know about mine. I could tell you about your faith, and I could tell you why I feel like it's wrong. And at the same time, I could tell you why I feel like mine is right. But they couldn't do the same to me, because what contradiction you gonna find in the Quran? What mistake you gonna find in the Quran? You ain't gonna find one, right? And when I have that type of confidence in myself, then how are you gonna lose? How are you gonna say, how can I stay on Deen in the West? How are you gonna stay on Deen anywhere if you're worried about where you live, if you're worried about your surroundings? He showed me, I'm gonna let you he showed me the podcast with Muhammad Hijab, and he was talking about what the Quran does in controlling our desires, how it helps us control our desires.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So I was gonna get to the point, right? Like when we talk about how to stay on Deen, in the West, or matter of fact anywhere, right? Because you got to stay on the Deen, right? We have to look back at the true purpose of our life. Why? What is the ultimate purpose of life? Like, and Allah says in the Quran, He has not created mankind or jinkind except for His worship, right? Mm-hmm. So, it's a lot deeper than just the way it sounds, right? Not just worship as in prayer, right? But as in being a good person, knowing that no one or nothing has the right to be worshipped except God, right? So knowing that your society, the friends you're around, the things, your desires, the things that you love, the things that you follow blindly, right? None of these things are worthy of your worship except Allah, right? The one true God, right? Mm-hmm. And once you truly come to fathom that, like He said, there's no way to lose, right? The 5 pillars of Islam, even the way that they're set, right? What comes right after the belief, the prayer, right? Because that's how important it is, right? Allah tells us to pray 5 times a day, not for His benefit, right? Allah doesn't get anything out of it, right? Mm-hmm. When we pray 5 times a day, it's for our benefit, right? You as a Muslim, right? You're going to be challenged anywhere you go. You're going to go through things anywhere. You're going to go through hardship. Even throughout your daily life, you go through so many things, whether you're working, whether you're seeing people, whether you get into an argument, whatever, having this prayer at these certain times, right? Taking a break for a little bit and coming back and feeling refreshed, you connect back with your Lord, you connect back with the Creator, just makes you feel a lot better as a person, and it keeps you steadfast. It keeps you wanting to stay on the Deen. You go from I need to go pray to, yes, I want to go pray. I feel the need, I need to go pray. Mm-hmm. Your heart urges to go pray. You want to have a conversation with Allah. You want to be with Allah, right? Yep. And your relationship only gets stronger from there, right? And you just want to keep on practicing the Deen. You want to spread the Deen.
Wallahi, it's crazy because the statement, I only created a man and jinkind for my worship, right? Wallahi, it's an amazing statement. When you take the sweetness from that statement and you apply your daily lives as ibadats, as worships for God, like say, like your mother tells you to do something, you say, I'm going to do this for the sake of God. And then that's it, ibadah, that's sweetness from that statement. And you do that thing that your mother asked you to do to the best of your ability. Yeah. It doesn't mean turn your back on the world. Well, really, you do turn your back on the world. You know who said it? Ibn Qayyim said this, a very honorable person in Islam. Yeah. He said, the world is like a shadow. If you spend your entire life chasing your shadow, you'll never catch it. But the moment you turn your back on it, it will chase you.
Yeah.
The rest will follow.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Look, to add to what he was saying, you said when you take the prayer and you turn it from an obligation to something that you want to do, right? So you're, instead of saying, oh, I have to do this, you're like, I want to do this, right? For myself, as a Muslim growing up and, where I'm at today, it started with, I said, you have to look at the Shahada first. Do you truly believe in what the Shahada says, right? Okay, so you say yes. Now you look at your prayer, because the prayer is the first thing you're going to be asked about on the Day of Judgment, right? So you're looking at your prayer, and you have to take it from being a chore to being something you want to do. Like if you're someone who wants to go to the gym because you're disciplined and you want to look good for the sake of Allah, that type of thing, then you have to apply the same principle to prayer. Prayer has to be something you want to do. Prayer has to be like, you have to look at prayer more than just something that, Allah's going to ask you about. You have to look at it as something like, this is a conversation between me and Allah. I'm asking Allah to keep me guided, to keep me like from falling down on the path of shaitan, because there are so many people who have fallen down on that. You have to look at the Quran, right? The Quran tells you so many stories about nations that were destroyed, about nations that came before us. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, and when you look at those are not just stories. Those aren't campfire stories, bro. Those stories in the Quran, they're reminders. They're lessons for us. That's what the Quran is sent down for. It's sent down with the Prophet ﷺ as a mercy to mankind. It says that in Surah Al-Anbiya, he was sent down as a mercy to mankind. And these stories, they're lessons to us. You have to look at it like the people of Thamud, the people of Yasin, the people of Nuh, the people of Lut, the people of Hud. Like all these people, all these nations that were destroyed. And you see they were destroyed in like harsh fashion. And this is not even the punishment of the hellfire yet. And we're not going to be destroyed because we're the last we're the last nation.
Wallahi, it's crazy today because the people, they don't reflect.
Yeah.
The people today think we're any different from the people before us. Think about the Roman Empire. They probably thought the same way that we thought. They think in the West they're on top of the world, but they fell just like they will fall.
Empires
we have to think
fall.
about all empires fall.
Yeah.
Wallahi, that's crazy.
And the other thing is, right, going back to, even the 5 daily prayers, right? You ask Allah at least 5 times a day, praying your obligatory prayers, right? You ask him, Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, guide us to the straight path. You ask him this 5 times a day. And right before that, what do you say? Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. You alone we worship and you alone we ask for help. And then right after that, he says, guide us to the straight path. You are asking for his guidance 5 times a day, just from your basis of salah and whatever you ask for on top of that, right?
And
so even as a true practicing Muslim, you might be a pious person. You might not try your best to stay away from sins. And yet you are still the one asking at least 5 times a day to keep, for Allah to keep you on the straight path. Now imagine the ones who are not seeking guidance at all. You see exactly what happens to these kind of people and the people that even came before us, right? Like you said, Allah has turned them into, a story to tell us, as a reminder, as a lesson, because we as human beings, we tend to forget. We always forget. We need reminders.
We forget where we come from.
Exactly. We need the reminder. This is why we're told to pray 5 times a day. Not
yes, but Allah could have made it one time. Mankind is too arrogant to put his head on the ground, even though he came from mud. He came from sperm emitted. And yet you're too arrogant. You think you're too high to put your head on the ground to the one who created you, the one who fashioned you, the one who gave you the ability to breathe, see, hear, and talk.
And yes, and going back to the ultimate purpose, right? There has to be an ultimate purpose for every single creation.
Yes.
Like, just imagine, right? Like, yeah, we all live, different lives, right? Some people say, I like to live for my family, live to help people. And these are all great purposes, right? But what is the ultimate purpose that we can truly say fits to every single creation?
And it's ever living.
And every single creation fits the description of worshiping Allah. All the animals, the heavens and the earths, the human jinn kind, worship willingly and unwillingly, right? It's just the human beings and the jinn kind who have the freedom to disbelieve and the freedom to believe, right?
Yeah. What you were saying, looking at the one who created you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gives us so many avenues to find his mercy, find his guidance, find his protection. There are so many du'as that you can seek refuge from, and people are too worried about what's around them. I understand that people have urges. People have desires that are really strong. We all have them. I have them myself as well. And but I'm telling you right now, if you're worried about where you're living because of the fitna around you, because there are atheists who can cast doubt in your heart, there are Christians who may be able to cast doubt in your heart, or other faiths that may be able to cast doubt in your heart, then the one thing you have to do, you have to seek refuge in Allah. You have to it takes you back to the roots. It's the basis of Islam, the pillars of Islam. You have to look at that, but then you also have to look. There are 6 pillars of faith. Understanding, believing in Allah, His books, His angels. The 6 pillars of faith. You have to put that into your the 5 pillars of Islam. They look so simple, but when you actually go through with them, you see how complex this the beauty of Islam is. It's so easy to do, but in your heart it's so complex because it spreads all over your body.
It's easier said than done.
Yeah, simple is not always easy.
Yeah. Just like how so many supplications, they always say, light on the tongue, heavy on the scale. It's the same thing in life. Everything you do, when you think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, if there's something bad that you might do, let's say you have friends who drink and smoke and party and all this stuff, and you hang around them and you're afraid of doing that, then you could say, you're either not going to do it or you're going to leave them for the sake of Allah because you fear Allah more than trying to please these friends because you don't want to give into the peer pressure.
Like what good would that give you? Like atoning to the worldly life. Like what good would that give you? It wouldn't give you any good. You have to get your priorities straight. You have to stay on this
pleasure, right?
Yes, it's temporary pleasure.
Even in this world, right? Nothing that lasts a long time comes easy, and vice versa. Everything that is, temporary short pleasure comes so easy. Yeah. Like for instance, right? Things that people desire a lot, like alcohol. It's so easy to get your hands on alcohol, right? Mm-hmm. But let's say $1 million, right, which would fix a lot of people's lives. Things a lot of people desire. It's not easy to go and make $1 million.
The thing that will break you is easy, but the thing that will make you is hard to get.
Exactly.
But like, who told you anything in this life was going to be easy? Who told you succeeding was going to be easy?
It was never promised it was going to be easy.
It was never promised it was going to be easy. You're not entitled to anything. You have to go and work for it. You're not entitled to anything.
Just the fact that you're alive is already a blessing enough. Yes. What you do from there is
if you were to try and count the blessings that God gave you would never count them. You would never count them. Wallahi, that's bro. To remember these facts, to remember these thoughts, that's what will keep you on your deen no matter what. To remember these blessings, the ni'mas that Allah has given you.
Yeah, like one of the things, right, that was talked about in the khutbah, right, in the most recent Jummah I went to. So it was the thing about being grateful, right? And it talked about how you looking at people that have more than you will only ruin you. Mm-hmm. You're gonna be looking at them and you're gonna be like, why do they have that and I don't have this? You become, and so many bad things come out of it. Enviness, jealousy. You want what they have, you can't get it, and then you start to feel the doubt in your heart. You start to be ungrateful to Allah. And so many more things, right? But instead, what are we told to do? Look at people who have less than you. This right here will be a key factor in making you more grateful, right? You're gonna be more happy for the things that you have been blessed with, right? And this right here, right, will also keep you more on the deen, right? The more you look at people who have less than you, the more you're gonna want to help, the more you're gonna want to engage, the more you're gonna want to spread, the positivity, and just the support, right, for these kinds of people.
And it's crazy because in the most recent khutbah that I went to on the Friday prayer, the sheikh, he was talking about making yourself available to the people and helping the people.
Yeah.
Like not only like helping yourself, like yes, it's good to remember God and help yourself, and like once you're on that path, go help people.
A servant of God is a servant of his people.
Yes, you must help the people. You must make yourself available to the people.
Yeah.
That in itself is ibadat. And then think about it. Think about you've done good in this world, and like you've completed your mission. You submitted your will to God. You've helped people in this world. You left behind things for the people of this world. You made the world a better place.
I want you guys to understand, like you viewers, right? I want you guys to just think about this. Have you ever met someone in your life who was so ungrateful? You do so much for this person. It's like they don't even care about anything that you've done. Yep. Now imagine the one who created you, who created the heavens and the earth, who gave you eyes to see with, a nose to breathe with, good lungs, working lungs.
Yeah, imagine
all these things, right? And you are so ungrateful to him, and on top of that, you disbelieve in him, or you worship partners with him.
Like,
this is why it's so bad. Imagine how bad you felt when someone was just ungrateful to you. For you, let's say you just bought them food a couple of times, and you're already mad because.
No. Imagine this. Imagine Osman. Imagine I gave you a kidney transplant, and you didn't say thank you. No, matter of fact, you said thank you to him. Yeah. You said thank you to someone else. You associated a partner with what I gave you. Imagine how that would make me feel.
He had nothing to do with it.
Imagine how that would make me feel. I would want to destroy you right on the spot and take my kidney back. But no, that's not what God did.
Yeah.
And Allah is so merciful, right? Yes, even the people who disbelieve in him, who take partners besides him, right? Who are so ungrateful.
He still gives them time on this earth.
He still gives you time on this earth. He still gives you time to change. He still gives you, Allah is the most just, right? Whatever he does, right, is just to everybody, right? Mm-hmm. You cannot fathom that, right? In your little simple mind, right? Mm-hmm. Compared to his wisdom, right? It's nothing. So, the next time you're out here being ungrateful, right? I just need you to think about that.
Right, what's crazy? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. Everyone says life is unfair. If life's unfair to everybody, life is fair. I know everyone has heard that.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Allah can either take your soul in your worst state or in your best state. There's no in between. There's no state in you're neutral.
It's like you either worship the devil or you worship God. You can't worship both. It's impossible, right? You either follow one. You have the choice to pick.
Mm-hmm. What I was gonna say, like personally for myself, if people are like shy about their deen or struggling with their deen or something like that, confidence in your way of life goes a long way. That's where knowledge comes from. You know, I wasn't confident in my deen until I sought out some knowledge, until I was able to explain to people the stuff that, like the questions they would ask me. You know, they'd ask me some questions, and some things I'd know, some things I wouldn't know.
Yeah,
you know, the basic stuff you could ask me, and I could tell you, like, oh, you fast for a full 30 days? No. Like, no, I don't fast every single day. You know, I fast from sun up to sundown, that type of thing. That you know, those questions I can answer. But then when they start asking, like, where did the belief come from? Like, what does the Quran say? This type of stuff. Or, you know, I really respect your belief in this and that, and how you're disciplined in this and that type of stuff. And they could ask me questions about the prophets and what we believe and all that type of stuff. Then, you know, that confidence, like, it came through, and it makes me feel like that true joy in being a Muslim, because I'm like, dang, people, like, they feel help even if they're not a Muslim, and they can see the confidence radiating off of me, because it's not me. I'm not confident in myself. I'm confident in my faith. You know, I have no doubt in what I believe in. You know, I have no doubt in the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one true God. That is it. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's his messenger and his slave. And when that confidence, it starts radiating to other things that you do in your life, like. When you can start going out and praying in public, then you know that you're doing something right. When the time of prayer comes and you see you're outside and you're like, no, I'm gonna go pray. I'm gonna stop whatever I'm doing. I'm gonna go pray.
That confidence does radiate. You know, every time we go out in public and we're with our brothers and we're all wearing thobes and jalabiyah and sometimes we'll pray outside, the people will come and ask us. Yeah. They'll ask us, like, who are these people? They'll think to themselves, when we walk into the room, everybody's looking at us. They'll think to themselves, like, who are these people? What allows them to walk with such subtleness, humbleness? Like, it's Islam. It really is Islam.
Like, yeah. I had a couple times where I've prayed outside, and, you know, I was around people, like, they were non-Muslim. These were teammates of mine, and I was like, and I'm praying there. Like, my coach knew, but players didn't know. I didn't tell them I'd go pray. I'd just tell my coach. And I went there, and I'm praying, and I see a couple of players. They walk by me, and the only thing they said respect. They was just saying respect. And then they came after I was done, and they dapped me up. They said, hey, man, I respect what you do, because you're like, I see how disciplined you are in your faith. And then after that, like, a couple times they'd ask me questions about Islam and all this type of stuff in the prayer, and like why we have to pray at certain times and all this type of stuff. And it was like, their interest in it, I could see, like, this interest, because it radiates in everybody. It has to. Like,
and on top of that, they've never seen anything like that, right? So, and before I get into, like, you know, other faiths, I'm gonna just talk about, you know, Islam right now. You know, when we go about, like you said, you know, just seeking knowledge about Islam, like when you read the Quran, right? You know, what's one thing we as human beings want a lot, even from, like, let's say our significant others, reassurance, right? We always want to know, right? You praying 5 times a day is a lot of reassurance, right? You recite the Quran, you reading the Quran, you going to the Quran as your source of knowledge, right? And you going and reading that has a lot of reassurance. The Quran says all over it, this is for those of understanding, or on a day which there is no doubt, or it says, so there is no doubt in their faith. You know, things like that. You know, Allah,
they will reflect.
Exactly. So, and on top of that, the challenges the Quran presents, you know, producing a chapter like it, or had this been from other than Allah, it have many contradictions, or things that the Prophet couldn't have known 1400 years ago. These all create confidence, right? And once you come to know, you're like, wow, like, you know, you just fall in love with it even more and more and more. And then me personally, right? I'd look into different religions, like especially Christianity and atheism, right? You know, the two biggest things right now, right? And on top of that, you know, Hinduism, Buddhism, and all these other religions, right? The more I study these religions, the more faith I have in my Islam. I'm like, you know, alhamdulillah for Islam, right? Alhamdulillah, I didn't fall into this, right? Because once you truly know Islam, and once you truly see these faiths, and once you truly see what the world really is, you know, you're only going to be even more thankful for Islam.
The thing is, here's what I notice when I read into these other faiths. You can see error in those ways of life that the humans created up, because that was not stuff from God, that was from the humans. But like in Islam, you can't find any errors. What are you gonna say? And on top we worship God. Like, what are you gonna say? There is no errors in Islam.
You can see the difference between when a human being is speaking and between when Allah is speaking. Yes. Like, it is even though it's very
go read
simple,
your Quran.
Like, it's very simple, right? Even the English translation, right? English translation is no longer even considered the Quran. Even this is powerful. You can feel the effects of it, but. You know, for instance, right? Like, especially when I read the Bible, like, there are some verses I'm like, I feel like this is from God. Like, I feel like this is God speaking to me. And then other verses I'm like, you know, you can just tell. You're like,
what is this?
Someone modified that. Like,
or this was plagiarized or copied.
For the people who wonder how do we get on Deen, one of the first things.
I wanna bring up another point.
What?
First, how to stay on Deen is to not give up. Don't ever give up. Like, do you guys remember the guy who gave up? No one did.
Like, listen, you know, if you never give up, you have nothing to worry about.
And this is not just for Deen. This is for all aspects of life. If you go 100% on something and you never give up, and you have that type of discipline, like there's only success waiting for you at the end of the line.
If you use the deen, if you use the discipline of Islam with everything else in your life, like let's say school or your business, you can never fail. I promise you, never.
And that is a promise.
Yeah, I promise you that. You can never fail.
The discipline of Islam tells you no matter where you're at, even on like a day like Jummah, you're supposed to drop everything and go to the khutbah and pray Jummah. Because the rewards, like you can't fathom those types of rewards. But if you say, oh no, I have to work or I have to do this or I have to do that, now people are looking at you like, is this more important than you trying to make it to Jannah? Is this more important than you trying to earn the mercy of Allah?
No, not even people. Even Allah says in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, leave your business, go and search for the bounty of Allah after you have prayed, and remember God a lot so that you may be successful. He tells you, he gives you the characters. He just says, go and leave your businesses, leave your tenants, go pray the Jumu'ah Salah. And even in congregation, you feel the congregation where all those Muslims are in the same building.
What does it say? What does it say after? Go back and do what you're doing.
And then go back and do what you're doing.
Look at
the bounty of God.
Look at the practicality of Islam.
Yes.
You know, subhanallah.
And speaking of that, look, for me personally, listen, people, because I wanted to answer the question personally as well as like objectively to like let people know the way Islam looks at it. But the way that it approached for me, like finding the guidance of Allah, was I've reflected on myself and what was going on at the time that I was getting closer to Allah. What was going on at the time was I was not hanging around many people. I was barely going out with people. I was praying, but I was like, I didn't truly understand what the meaning of prayer was. I didn't truly understand what the words I was saying in the Fatiha was, that type of stuff. I wasn't truly understanding the benefit of prayer, but I was praying. And, that was a start. And then as I started getting more knowledge, as I started to understand, oh my God, look at what the Fatiha says. Like there's something so great in here that I was not like fathoming. Like, people, like you see that people say it's the opener for a reason. It's a literal conversation just between you and Allah. Everything else, like if you were to read any excerpts from a surah or any surah, like any of the short surahs in Juz Amma and stuff like that, you can use it as a supplication, right? But this is the one thing that you say Ameen after every single time you read it for a reason, because this is you like declaring to Allah, like, I need your guidance. I can't do this without you. It's only you. It's only you who can guide me. And I need your guidance from the path of shaitan, the path that has angered you and you have led astray. And so when I was looking at that type of stuff, I was finding that I wasn't hanging around people because there are du'as and there are times where you can see that Allah will separate you from things that are not good for you. And you can see that. You can ask those questions like, oh, why would Allah do this and why would Allah do that? Or why would a loving God do this and that? You see people who ask those questions. But then when you start to reflect on like, how did you get better from it? Like, how did you learn from it? What lessons came out of it? Then you start to find your answers. You can't just start asking questions and think answers are going to fall out the sky. You have to search for the answers yourself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you to do that. Go find your answers. But you can find the answers quicker if you make supplication to Allah. If you only speak to Allah, you can't go asking someone else, hey, how can a loving God do this? Well, you're not going to, can you answer me? Huh? Can you tell me? No, you can't. Because you're not God.
Go open your Quran.
Yeah,
find out.
Go read. Go seek knowledge. Go find your answers.
Allah is crazy because I'll be like, with you saying that, it brings up another point. Like, in staying on your deen and staying on the right way of life, look at the people around you. Like, imagine, the one thing that's forgotten among Muslim men nowadays is going and praying in congregation in the masajid.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, you're standing in the lines with all your other Muslim brothers, all the other Muslim men, and you, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, all praise due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds.
Yeah.
Like, every single other person just heard that, and every single other person is contemplating that, and every single other person is thinking about that, just as you are. Like, imagine the confidence you gain. Like, look at all these other people like me.
Like even going to Jummah, for instance, right? What do you see that's kind of strange, right? You walk into the masjid, right? For a non-Muslim, you just see people sitting on the ground, just listening to the imam give the khutbah. They're all these people are just paying attention. Like what has all their attention? Why are they sitting on the ground? And what has their attention, right? Is learning about Allah, right? Learning about the deen of Islam, right? Like this is how far people will go. Humble themselves. They'll put their head on the ground. They'll sit on the floor and listen to the khutbah, right? All these things for the sake of Allah, right? You know,
Wallahi, you'll see the biggest brothers. They're all the same. The biggest, the shortest, the smallest, the tallest. They're all the same. The oldest, the youngest. Is like there's no distinction over there. There's no age. So everyone's just worshiping. They're all like they're sitting down. They're looking because they all have one goal. They all see one goal.
Yeah, like bro, going to Jummah, that's one way you can help yourself stay on the deen. If you can't make it to the
and that's why it's obligatory.
Week, if you can't make it every single day or every single prayer or whatever, because you don't live very close to the masjid, you have to try to make it every single Friday. You know why? Because like when you go as a Muslim, when you go to Jummah, and you see all those people sitting around, facing the direction of the Qibla, listening to what the Imam has to say. You know, the reminders he's giving you, the warnings he's giving you, telling you, like, he's giving you glad tidings of Jannah, or he's giving you warnings about the hellfire. Yeah, he's giving you knowledge. Like, I come out of Jummah every single Friday more knowledgeable. But at the same time, I feel in my heart, like, I could feel Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inside of my heart. Like, he tells you in the Quran, he's closer to you than your jugular vein. And I don't feel any closer to him, except for when I'm in Mecca and Medina, than I do at Jummah. There's no better feeling than being at Jummah, seeing in congregation, and then, you know, being able to say a dua like, you know, my Lord, forgive me, forgive my parents, and forgive all the believers. And I'm looking at all the believers around me in the room and all the believers in the world. But I could see the people around me. I'm like, hey, I want Allah. I want to meet all of you in Jannah. You know, you are all my brothers here. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, the conversation in the prayer is between me and him, but all of you are having the same conversation. We're all seeking the same type of knowledge. We're all seeking the same type of guidance. You know, we're trying to stay on the path of Islam. When you have that, that's a connection between you. That's why we call it ourselves brothers and sisters in Islam. You know, there's unification there. We're all facing the same direction. We're all putting our head on the ground.
And you see the beauty of this, right? Allah makes things obligatory because Allah doesn't want you to stray away from the path. Allah loves these deeds the most. That's why he makes them mandatory. You know, you're not going to be separated from me. You're not going to, you know, this is Allah, right? You know, you're going to pray these 5 daily prayers. You're going to be in Jannah, right? You know, I want to see you in paradise. You know, when the people go to the hellfire, this doesn't benefit Allah in any way. Allah is angry when he sees his creation enters the hellfire. That's not what he created us to go for, right? But of course, if you are deserving of it, you will be there. You know, just know that. But
and imagine that notion. You were among the people who failed. Like, you know, effectively
in the Quran, right? Allah says he will ask the people, how long were you on earth for? They will say a day or half of a day.
Yes.
Right?
And you even see today, wow, time goes by so quickly.
Exactly. Like,
time flies. Where's the time gone?
It was like yesterday.
Yeah.
There you go. You know, a day and a half a day. But look, the thing is, you know, these people will only be asking for another chance. And what will Allah say to them? Sit in there with disgrace and do not speak to me. Imagine Allah, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the one your creator telling you this. Besides Allah, you have no helper. How are you gonna feel?
That line just hit, dog. You know,
sit in there with disgrace and do not speak.
You know what made me think of that? Because you say this right about the hellfire, and we were talking about who you hang around. One of our biggest enemies as a Muslim is the munafiqs, the hypocrites. You could say, oh, I have Muslim friends, but you have to look at them. What type of Muslim are they? Are they someone who's proud to be a Muslim, wears Muslim, like the name Muslim on their sleeve, but also practices it, not just has it on their name, saying, oh yeah, hey, I'm Muslim. And or they're a Muslim only in Ramadan. They're a sheikh in Ramadan.
Yeah, Ramadani Muslims.
They only pray
are they a Muslim who truly practices, who's truly seeking knowledge, who's truly trying to better themselves on the path of Islam and the path of Allah and, you know, the sunnah of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam? Are they someone who does that, right? Because first off, there's a whole surah dedicated to the munafiqs. Second up, the munafiqs are said to be the worst of people who are going to be in the hellfire. They are going to be in the lowest part of hellfire. Not the people who committed shirk. And the reason why the people who committed shirk are not going to be in the lowest part, who are not the most hated of creation, or who are going to be the worst punishment, is because the munafiqs, they know what shirk is. They know exactly what it is, yet they still don't believe. Yet they try to tell people that they're Muslim, or they say they pray, but they pray sometimes. Or they do certain things, like I said, Ramadani Muslims. They pray, but they pray sometimes. They only pray when they think they need to. But you see, that says a lot about people. If you're someone who only prays during Ramadan, that means, okay, yeah, you know, when shaitan is locked up, when all the shayateen are locked up, okay, fine, yeah, you feel like a notion
that little bit of
pray.
iman.
Yeah, there's a little bit of iman inside of you. But then when Ramadan is over, look what happens. You know, shaitan controls your desires. He controls you. You know, you think you have control over things, but no, you don't.
And if this is describing you, you know, as a viewer, don't think it's ever too late, right, to come back, right? You know, this is the shaitan playing games with you. Mm-hmm. He's gonna say, oh, how can you go ahead and do this? Or you didn't pray for 5 years straight. How can you just go back and pray now? No, you need to go ahead and do it. You know, the prayer is exactly what's going to help you get off of that. It doesn't just happen overnight, right? You need to want it for yourself, right? And this is how you stay on the deen, right? It's, you know, it's little by little. It's a lifelong journey. Islam is a lifelong journey. It's not something that just happens overnight. I'm not going to wake up the next day and be a hafiz, right? You know, you have to want it for yourself, right? You know, anything you want to be successful in life, you have to want it for yourself. You have to go ahead and push yourself, right? You always want to do better, right?
Yeah, and look, that goes for people who say they have a halal to haram ratio, or people who be on like TikTok and social media talking about haram police and all this. Why would you even be enabling that? Like, you're no better than anybody else who's outside of Islam, because we're supposed to be setting an example. You know, we believe we are the faith. You know, we believe we are the faith from the beginning of time, that all these other faiths have been corrupted and they are not the true faith. Like, we are strict monotheism, the true monotheism, right? But people are out here talking about I have a halal to haram ratio. And if you understand that what you do stuff that is haram and you're actively not trying to stop it, then what type of person are you? How can you call yourselves, tell people, oh yeah, I'm a Muslim, but I do such and such?
There's no dignification in that. There's no dignity in that.
Like, exactly, there's no dignity. There's no dignity. Like, how can you like tell people that, like, how can you be known as a Muslim if you do something like that?
I mean, it's the same way, right? Like, you know, growing up, or, you know, you see some people around you are just two-faced, right? You know, they're one way here, one way, you know, the other way. And it's the same thing, you know, this is why munafiqs are so disliked in Islam. That's why they'll have the worst punishment. You know, Allah says, you know, amongst mankind, there are some hypocrites who say, we believe in Allah on the last day, while in fact they do not believe. They lie to Allah and those who believe, but they only lie to themselves and they do not realize. You see, just imagine that. You lie to yourself. You don't, you know, you're only making a fool of yourself. Yeah, that's Surah Baqarah.
Yeah, listen. For the Muslims, if you're someone who says you have a halal to haram ratio, or you like the title of a hypocrite can describe the things that you do, then you need to really look at yourself, because I understand there are people who are struggling out there to be on Deen, but I'd rather you struggle than you not do anything at all. Because a lot of, like, for the munafiqs, for the people who are hypocrites, they don't struggle on Deen. They're okay with how their Deen is. They're okay with saying, oh, they pray sometimes, or they only pray during Ramadan, or they fast some days and they don't fast some days.
Basically, they only do it when it benefits them.
Yeah, they do. They are Muslim when it benefits them. They're Muslim by name, like when it benefits them. You know, they're not even sure if they truly believe in Allah and the last day. You know, they're not truly sure if they understand what the Prophet ﷺ was, that he was sent as a mercy to mankind. They don't truly understand that. And I don't think they will understand it until they're truly tested with a trial that, like, really truly tests their faith. People will be tested by that type of stuff, but they think it's just a part of life. They don't, like, when we were watching Black Panther, y'all remember when what's her name? When Shuri went in the little ancestral plane thing, they said she should be buried for their customs, you know, their cultural thing. But the reason she didn't want to is because, what's it called? What's his name? Killmonger. He said he didn't believe her, right? He didn't believe in it, or she didn't believe in it, right? That's the same. That's the same way I'm thinking about it right now as the hypocrites. They don't truly believe that there's paradise, or there's a hellfire, or that there's a last day or something.
Well, Allah said, in fact, they do not believe.
Yeah, he just said that.
No, I'm saying, but because some people, they can say they believe it, but they don't, like. They, like, in their mind you can say, but in their heart there's nothing there.
Well, that's the thing, you know, your iman, you don't just lose it overnight too. It's also vice versa. Your iman doesn't just lose overnight. It happens over time. You start to indulge yourself in sins. You start to be far away from Allah. You stop caring, you know, it through hardship or whatever it may be. You know, this is how a hypocrite is created.
The thing about hypocrites is that, like, when discussing it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes, like, the characteristics of a hypocrite in, like, the Quran. Like, they get up for the prayer lazily. They're not focused on their prayers, stuff like that. But like, the thing is, we'll never truly know who's a hypocrite and who's not, because we can't see when anyone's lying. That's why I really care about discussing this.
We can't say anybody in particular is a hypocrite, right?
Yeah,
we don't truly. Allah
don't know
knows, but I'm
what's in
talking
people's
about
hearts.
if this description fixed you, please, you know, fix yourself. You know, and it's a reminder for yourself, or it's a reminder for me, a reminder for them. It's a reminder for everybody,
Look,
right?
We can't truly say it, but I've seen people with my own eyes. I've known people with my own eyes who will, like, or I've seen videos, and they'll say, yeah, I'm Muslim, but I do this. And I'm like, you know it's wrong, right? It's haram. They'll be like, yeah, I know it's haram, but I'm just having fun. And I'm like, I'm not gonna call them a munafiq to their face, but, like, for me, I'm like, bro, I cannot associate with you at all.
Bro, dude, have you never seen the video Al-Sharab al-Khamar laysa bi-kafir? The one who drinks alcohol is not a kafir. The one who commits zina is not a kafir. The one who's gay is not a kafir. None of that makes them kuffar.
Yeah.
Like, well, he doesn't say none of that makes them a munafiq, but none of that makes them a kuffar. To say someone, you can't call someone a munafiq, you didn't call them it.
Yeah, I'm not calling them
because you can't see what's in their heart.
But I'm saying,
that's
like,
why when I'm discussing
the
this,
traits,
it's really.
I'm saying
but the traits, yes,
yeah.
the traits. You get up for the prayer lazily. Like, okay, let's say you only pray sometimes or each day, or only pray during certain times of the year. If you're struggling to pray, okay. If you're okay with that, then, like, wallahi, my brother, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, no.
Well, I do know what to tell you.
Well, here's what I'm gonna tell you. You need to get on the deen. Start, learning about your religion. Knowing why, you really should. Knowing why Islam is the truth.
What do you think is the main cause for people becoming hypocrites?
Well, like I just said, the process.
Do they not know their religion?
You don't lose the iman.
It's a
overnight.
process.
It's a process, right? First of all, they don't have the knowledge. So, okay, now on top of the knowledge, they start, even if they know the knowledge, actually, matter of fact, because, there's people that know the knowledge, there's people that don't know knowledge, that doesn't determine how good of a Muslim you are. But you start indulging yourself, like, let's say you start going into the clubs, you start drinking, you start smoking. Like, I'm not saying this makes you a hypocrite, but I'm saying you start doing these things, then you start to find them okay, and then you're just like, no, just this one time, or it's just the last time, and this and that. You start to get sucked into that, right? And then there will be a certain point in time where shaitan will just say, religion is just holding you back. Islam doesn't want you to live your life. Islam just wants to hold you back and not let you do anything with your life. And you're going to start to believe these types of things. And on top of that, even the people that you associate around, let's say you hang around 10 people, they're not praying, they're not doing any of that, right? You're going to start to question yourself. Like, is Islam really the thing I should be following?
Is it really that important right now? Maybe I'll do it later on.
Exactly. And see, this is exactly how these types of people are created, right? So this is why your friend group and your area, your community, your environment.
That's why it's
so
important to be disciplined from the beginning. Like,
exactly.
You got to be disciplined.
This is why,
like, when you see wrong, turn away. You just turn away. It's like maybe say you're a professional boxer and you see candy, like, you just turn away. You don't even look at it, because the more longer you look at it, the more you contemplate. Then it's fixated in your mind, and now you're eating candy, and then you're eating pizza, and then now you're fat, and now you're out of shape, and now you're not a champion boxer anymore.
And like I was saying,
you can apply it to all aspects of life. Wallahi, Islam is beautiful.
Yeah, just going back, to hanging around the 10 people and stuff like that. Remember, they are not worthy of worship. Only Allah is worthy of worship. So you turn your back on them and you say, I only do it for Allah. I don't do it for the people. I don't do it for the society, right? Only Allah is worthy of my worship, and you try your best to restrain yourself. Yes, we fall into sins. Everyone is going to do that. You always, want to repent back from your sins, right? But I'm talking about, it's a process, right? One day you will lose it if you keep thinking things are okay when they're not supposed to be okay, right? There's a difference between the person who knows what they're doing is wrong and the person who feels like what they're doing is wrong, but then they try to justify it, right?
Yes, the one who justifies. Yeah, justification.
Who say,
you get taken out of the fold of Islam that way. That's not even hypocrisy. That's kufr.
Like the people who say, worry about yourself, only Allah can judge me, this type of stuff. But look, in the deen of Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you he will test you with, like, losses of wealth,
hunger,
children, hunger, these types of things. And if you can attribute those types of trials and tribulations to the fact that, okay, this is Allah testing me, this is me getting good deeds, this is me getting my sins erased, this type of stuff, then you will start to benefit. You will start to see benefit. But when you start asking questions like, why is this happening to me? Why me? Why would God do this to me? This type of stuff. Then that's where you're going to start losing yourself. That's where you can start falling out of the fold of Islam, because you're going to start, like, associating different issues with that. But if you are someone who is not actively, practicing in the way of Islam, or you're not doing it like the way that a Muslim should, then you need to start fearing for yourself, especially if there's good things happening to you. Because that is Allah showing you, I will give you the benefits of this world, but in the hereafter, everything will be stripped from you. Your rank, your status, everything will be stripped from you. Your family won't even recognize who you are. What does it say in Surah Al-Qari'ah? Ummuhu hawiya. That's saying your mom is the hellfire, basically. Your mom, you won't have your mom no more if you go to the hellfire. Your mom will be the hellfire. And hellfire is a beast. Hellfire will eat you alive and spit you out and keep eating you alive. Man, that's a reminder.
It's not funny.
Did it?
That's scary.
Yeah. But with that being said, that's gonna close out this episode.
Hold on, wait. I don't want to close it out on, like, you get up and spread out.
Okay, go ahead.
It's not funny.
Okay, so
that's not funny. What I said is what's funny.
So the thing is, right? Dang, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Look,
go ahead.
Yes, you want us to keep steadfast on your deen. You don't want to be like the one who gets taken out of the fold of Islam, because then you're not a Muslim. I mean, at that point, it's nothing we can do for you.
Yeah,
you
look.
left. You were the one that was weak.
Yeah, so this is what I wanted to remind you of, right? You know, like going back, connecting to what you were saying. You're gonna be you might be given things in this life, like let's say a good family, but it drove you farther away from Allah. This is a punishment. Whether it doesn't matter how good this looks, and vice versa. You can have all you know, your wealth stripped away from you and your family stripped away from you, but if it brought you closer to the salah, this is one of the greatest rewards ever. You know, no matter how bad it looks, right?
Yep. See things for what they truly are.
And even being a Muslim, right? You have that perspective, right? Nothing bad happens to you. It's just a hardship, right? And it's also better for you. It's gonna shape you better as a person. It's an expiation of sins. You know, these types of things, right? There's nothing bad that happens to you truly as a Muslim. So don't start questioning Allah, right? Be more thankful in rough times, right?
Oh, this is what I want to talk about. There's two types of people in this world. There's a lot of two types of people in this world. There's the person who asks God, why me? And there's a person who takes the pain like an honor. Like, God told me for this because he knew I could handle it.
Exactly.
Because he knew I could handle it. I'm just different. I'm just a soldier. There's two types of people. There's, why me? What? It had to be me. Like, what are you crying for? You little.
Look, this is gonna close this out. All right. Remember, as a Muslim, it doesn't matter where you are or what time that we live in, and nothing justifies you falling to sin as a Muslim. You know, we should be steadfast and we should be trying to avoid sin. And we should be trying to
take accountability.
Take accountability. Look at the Sahaba, for example. Umar ibn al-Khattab, he was an alcoholic and a person who tried to kill the Prophet ﷺ before he converted to Islam, right? But then he became one of the most decorated khilafah of all time. Yes, he served one of the longest terms. He expanded Islam further than any of the khilafah, right? Yes. And then also look at Khalid ibn al-Walid. Look at how many Muslims he killed before he converted to Islam. But then look at how many wars he won for the sake of Allah in Islam, and he became the sword of Allah. That is what we should be looking at. That is how you stay on Deen.
Just look at the before and after. Before Islam, Umar ibn al-Khattab, he was an alcoholic. After Islam, he was literally one of the greatest khalifat Islam has ever seen. Khalid ibn al-Walid, he was, you know, maybe kill a Muslim here, kill a Muslim here. He tried to kill a Muslim, but then he saw the beauty of Islam. He became literally the greatest warrior to ever walk the planet.
Hold on.
Never lost a battle.
And you who may be practicing your deen right now, who might start to get arrogant, it could also be vice versa.
Yes.
Look at Shaitan, Iblis. He was one of the greatest of believers. Like he was up there with the angels. And now look at him now. He's influencing you now to become the disbeliever, to become the mushrik.
Billah.
Yeah, and then we can end it off with that.
But with that being said, you know, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We hope you enjoyed this 8th episode of the DEENTOUR podcast. You know, I hope y'all subscribe, like, follow us on Instagram and TikTok. You know, tap in with us. Love y'all.
All right. And, you know, of course, reminder, just like every episode, we're not scholars, students of knowledge, open to correction, you know, because we're human beings, yeah? So, with that being said, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.